A super typhoon just obliterated U.S. soil, and most people have absolutely no idea this is happening. As I'm recording this right now on April 15th, 2026, the island of Saipan is in ruins. Cars have been stacked on top of each other in parking lots like toys. Tin roofs are gone, just gone, shredded and scattered across the Pacific. The only hospital on the island is flooded. Roads are impassable. Power is out across the entire island, and a sitting U.S. president has just signed emergency declarations for U.S. territory. This is Super Typhoon Sinlaku, and this is the most powerful storm on planet Earth in 2026. I've been tracking this system since it formed, and what's unfolding right now is historic in ways that should make every single person watching this pay attention. Here's the number that stopped me cold. At peak intensity over open ocean on Sunday, April 13th, Sinlaku was packing sustained winds of 180 miles per hour. That's 290 kilometers per hour. That's not a storm. That's a missile system the size of an island, and here's the part they're not showing you in the mainstream coverage. Sinlaku is only the second Category 5 tropical cyclone on Earth this entire year. The first was Horatio, way back in February, churning through the South Indian Ocean. Two Category 5 storms on this planet before we're even done with April. That is not normal. That is a signal. Stay with me, because what comes next changes everything about how we understand this storm season. When Sinlaku made landfall on Tuesday night, April 14th local time, it hit Saipan and Tinian as a Category 4 monster with sustained winds of 150 miles per hour. 150 miles per hour of sustained wind, not gusts, sustained. To understand what that feels like on the ground, think about this. If you stood outside in those winds, the air itself would lift you off the ground. Metal bleachers at a local sports field were crumpled like aluminum foil. A resident named Dongmin Lee captured something almost impossible to believe on video. One car, sitting on top of two others, in his apartment building parking lot. The winds physically stacked vehicles. Part of his balcony railing was just torn away while he was filming. Saipan's mayor, Ramon Camacho, called it out in real time as it was happening. He said, and I'm quoting directly, "It's so difficult for us to respond with this heavy rain, heavy wind to rescue people. Objects are just flying left and right." Objects flying left and right. That's not a description of a storm. That's a description of a war zone. But that's not even the real story here, because there's a reason this particular storm is so devastating, and it goes far deeper than just the wind speed. I've been watching the track of this thing, and here's what stood out to me immediately. Before landfall, Sinlaku slowed down. It became, in the words of forecasters, nearly stationary about 30 miles off the coast of Saipan for hours, just sitting there, churning. Think of it like holding a blowtorch over the same spot on a piece of wood instead of passing it across quickly. The longer it lingers, the deeper the damage goes, and linger it did. The National Weather Service was forecasting 15 to 25 inches of total rainfall over Tinian and Saipan, storm surge of 5 to 8 feet. Along windward beaches, they were warning of water potentially rising 10 to 15 feet above normal sea level, 15 feet of water pushing inland. Now, here is where it gets interesting, because the people of Saipan have seen this before. They know exactly what a monster typhoon does to their home. In 2018, Super Typhoon Yutu made direct landfall on this exact same island chain. Yutu destroyed 85% of the campus of Northern Marianas College. It left more than a quarter of Saipan's 45,000 residents homeless. FEMA estimated damages at over $1 billion in today's money. And here's the gut punch. Saipan never fully recovered from Yutu. Then COVID hit and crushed the tourism economy that island depends on. And now Sinlaku has arrived on a community that was already on its knees. I'm not trying to be dramatic here. The data speaks for itself, and I find it very significant that Sinlaku is, according to Yale Climate Connections, the 10th Category 4 or Category 5 tropical cyclone to directly hit a U.S. state or territory in just the past 10 years. In the 57 years before that, the same number. 10 storms in 57 years, then 10 storms in 10 years. Let that settle in. The frequency has multiplied by a factor of 5, and no one is putting that number on the front page. The federal response has moved fast, I'll give them that. President Trump approved emergency disaster declarations for both Guam and the Commonwealth of the Northern Mariana Islands on Sunday, April 13th, before Sinlaku even made landfall. That's rare. Pre-landfall declarations unlock federal resources immediately under the Stafford Act, and in this case, they were right to do it. FEMA has deployed approximately 100 personnel to the region, including members of the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers, specifically brought in to deal with power restoration and water supply. The American Red Cross had over 1,000 people sheltered across multiple islands, even as the storm was still raging. And as of right now, remarkably, there are no confirmed deaths, but the damage assessment hasn't even started yet. First responders still can't get out into the hardest hit areas. The shelter-in-place order was still active as I'm recording this. Power is out. Water is out. The only hospital on Saipan took severe flooding damage. Some areas are being told they could be without power and water for weeks. Weeks. 45,000 people on this island chain completely cut off from normal life. Now, I want to talk about something that the major networks are not connecting, and it's the piece that makes this story so much bigger than just one storm. Why is the Western Pacific producing Category 5 typhoons in April? Typically, we don't see this kind of intensity this early in the season, and I've been tracking the climate signals behind this, and here's what I found. Scientists at Yale Climate Connections have flagged something that should be getting enormous attention right now. A new El Niño event appears to be developing, possibly a powerful one, potentially arriving by 2026 into 2027. And this is exactly the kind of atmospheric signature you'd expect to see as that system starts building. Here's the science in plain terms. During an El Niño episode, warmer waters spread across the Central Pacific. Typhoons form farther to the east, away from the Asian continent. They track over more open ocean before recurving. More open ocean means more time to intensify. More time to intensify means more Category 5 storms. Sinlaku followed that path almost perfectly. And remember when we saw Super Typhoon Mawar come through Guam back in May 2023 as a powerful Category 4 with 145-mile-per-hour winds? Same signature, same El Niño adjacent conditions. Sinlaku is not a one-off freak event. It's chapter 2 of a pattern that's been building. I'm not saying the 2026 typhoon season is going to be catastrophic, but I find it very interesting that we have 2 Category 5 systems before April is even over, and a potential El Niño accelerating in the background. What I'm about to tell you, most people watching the news right now have no idea about. Guam is not just a remote tropical island. Guam hosts 3 U.S. military bases and approximately 170,000 people. It is, strategically speaking, one of the most important pieces of U.S. territory in the entire Pacific, a key staging point for Indo-Pacific military operations. Sinlaku's outer bands pushed tropical storm force winds and torrential flooding over Guam. Wind gusts on Guam hit 88 miles per hour Tuesday night. Not enough to cause catastrophic infrastructure damage, but enough to knock out power across parts of the island and force the Water Authority to respond to multiple widespread outages. When a storm system disrupts even the outskirts of a U.S. strategic military hub, the implications go beyond emergency management. That's a dimension of this story that simply isn't being told right now. Now, let's bring this home to what this actually means for you. Because whether you're watching this from the continental United States or Europe or Southeast Asia, there is a direct line from Sinlaku to your world. We are in a period of accelerating tropical cyclone intensity globally. The science is unambiguous on this. Warmer oceans provide more energy for storms to feed on. Rapid intensification, where a storm goes from manageable to catastrophic in hours, is becoming more frequent. Sinlaku rapidly intensified to Category 5 strength before anyone on those islands had time to process what was coming. The gap between concerning forecast and catastrophic landfall is getting shorter. The lesson of Sinlaku applies to every coastal community in every ocean basin on this planet. Miami, Osaka, Mumbai, Brisbane. If you live near a coast, what happened in Saipan this week is your future threat landscape, and the communities least able to recover are hit first and hardest. Saipan is a perfect case study in what happens when an island economy is already weakened by a previous disaster, then a pandemic, then another major storm hits before recovery is complete. The economic damage compounds, the trauma compounds, the infrastructure gap widens. And 45,000 people on a small island in the Western Pacific are asking the same question right now that you might need to ask about your community. Are we prepared for back-to-back disasters? Do we have the infrastructure to survive when the grid goes down and it stays down for weeks? These are not hypothetical questions anymore. As of this recording, Sinlaku has moved northwest of Saipan and is expected to push towards sparsely populated volcanic islands in the far northern Marianas. The worst for Saipan and Tinian is over, but the real work hasn't even started yet. The damage assessment, the debris removal, the power restoration, the water supply, the flood-damaged hospital that will need to treat patients with no backup generation. This is going to take months, possibly years, and I'll be tracking every step of it. Here's what I want you to understand before I sign off. Sinlaku at peak was carrying 180 mile per hour sustained winds, and it is the second Category 5 of the year before April 30th. There has never been a single Category 5 Western Pacific typhoon this early in the year, more than a handful of times in recorded history. This year has produced one and possibly caught Saipan in its reach. The ocean isn't cooling down between storm seasons the way it used to. The baseline is higher, the fuel source is richer, and the systems feeding off that energy are getting bigger, faster, earlier. This is the defining geophysical story of our generation. Not one storm, not one season. A systematic, measurable shift in the way our atmosphere operates. And Sinlaku is not the end of this story. It's barely the beginning. I've been on this channel tracking tropical cyclone records, seismic activity, and climate inflection points for years now. And the reason I do it is simple. Information is protection. Knowing what's happening, knowing the patterns, knowing the history, knowing how to prepare, that's what keeps you and the people you love one step ahead. If you're not subscribed yet, do it now and have notifications turned on, because what's coming next in the North Pacific this season is something I've been watching build for months. And in my next video, I'm going to show you the ocean temperature anomalies that are sitting in the Western Pacific right now, the fuel that's already loaded and waiting. And based on what I'm seeing, this conversation about Sinlaku is going to feel like a warm-up. Stay safe, stay informed, stay ready. I'll see you in the next one.